Hi there, and welcome to Parents Using Human Design, the podcast for conscious parents who are unlearning the old ways and rewriting the rules with self-trust, intuition, and a whole lot of grace. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Bryn, and we're just two moms exploring what it means to parent with presence, permission, and the wisdom of human design as our compass.
Whether you're brand new to human design or deep in your experiment, this space is for you.
We're not here to tell you how to parent. We're here to support you in becoming more you, so you can raise your kids with more ease, connection, and authenticity.
Today, we are continuing from our last conversation because we were not able to go over the projector and reflector strategy. So we're going to really focus on that for today. Bryn, let's go.
Hand it off. Courtney's like, I just got a facial. I'm just floating.
I'm so zenned out. It's not even fun.
Good day to just have me talk.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's start with reflectors actually, because I feel like reflectors, maybe it's just my tendency, is always at the end of the list. So we'll start with reflectors today. So it's really interesting with reflectors. I feel like both reflectors and projectors have these strategies of what the hell is this, right? Like to respond. Okay, generators like, oh, I'm just looking for something to respond to. Manifestors are like, just do whatever you have the urge to do, right? That sounds really nice too. And then reflectors, it's like wait a lunar cycle, and projectors is to wait for the invitation. And so I think both of those are kind of like, what in the actual F does that mean? How am I supposed to live my life like that? So let's just start with reflectors waiting a lunar cycle. So it's really fascinating to me that of all the aura types, reflectors are quite different because they have no defined centers. There are no channels connecting any of the centers, which makes you, so if you have all these undefined centers, you're essentially a mirror, right? You're receiving energy and then you're amplifying it and reflecting it back. And so the way that reflectors are designed in all that openness is actually connected to the moon. So all of the rest of us we are solar beings. We're connected to the sun, whereas reflectors are lunar beings. So they're very connected to the moon. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because the moon is basically reflecting the light of the sun, right? So the reflectors are here. And this, by the way, is just such a small, tiny percentage, like 1% of our population, global population. And it's even hard sometimes and I've said this before, I think it's hard to even articulate or be able to express what it's like to be a reflector because there's so few. And it's like, we need not only to have reflectors share their experience of life, but to have them do it through the lens of human design or with that language. It's kind of like how many reflectors in the world, and then how many reflectors in the world know about human design and know that they're reflectors to be able to share this specific experience or speak about it in that way. So the strategy being to wait a lunar cycle means that you are so connected to the moon and the moon cycles that you're really looking in your experience. It's like your whole life, you're reflecting your environment. And this is so valuable in terms of the role in terms of humanity, because it's like, this is the canary in the coal mine, right? This is the person that is reflecting. Like if your reflector is well, good, right? If your reflector is unwell, they're the problem. And so we see that maybe in the home or the family unit, but you can also see that in the tribe or in the collective. So in your community or on a global stage. So it's really nice to know when you know reflectors, and then it's really good to, if you have a child, right, you're raising a reflector, or maybe you're a reflector parent, like to recognize how much of your experience is a reflection of what's going on around you, so that we can then begin to make adjustments accordingly. Now, how do you do that? I know I'm speaking broadly about being a reflector. I think it is all important context to have in the sense of, now what is that strategy? How do I wait a lunar cycle, or what am I waiting for a lunar cycle for? So when you're a solar being, we go through all 64 gates. We go through the energy of each of the 64 gates in 1 year. The moon experiences each of the 64 gates in a month, in a lunar cycle, in 28 days, right? So what is happening is as you are receiving the energies of each of these gates, you're activating different parts of you. And that's essentially could potentially, well, it will at certain points, certain gates are going to define two centers for you, right? It would change then, say it defines your sacral, it would change you for that period of time into basically reflecting back energy of a generator. So it's really important to note that there is this like kind of shape-shifting quality to reflectors, so that when we talk about the strategy of actually waiting a lunar cycle, what we're actually talking about is giving yourself the experience, or your child the experience, of moving through life, experiencing all those energies before you settle on a decision. So what that might look like in practicality, because there's a lot of ways in our world that you can't wait 28 days to make a decision about something. So let's just remind everyone that when we're talking about this strategy, it's like take action where you have to take action, right? But also notice, the bigger the decision, by the way, the bigger the decision, the more you're going to want to wait it out. But this strategy of waiting a lunar cycle is like, you really want to notice the ebbs and the flows, and where the energy surges and where you feel drained, and then how a particular decision or environment is influenced on a day-to-day basis as you go through all of this energy. And then as you are doing it with the people around you. So just an example. So I'm thinking like my daughter, she just got gymnastics lessons for her birthday. And so she really wants to try gymnastics. It's something that she's like so into side, and she's consistently been that way. Now, she's not a reflector. If she were a reflector, what we might do, instead of like Courtney, your daughter, we talked about soccer, you sign up for the whole, it's like months and months and months, you sign up for the whole season. We may only commit, if she was a reflector, or if my daughter was a reflector going into gymnastics classes, we may only commit to short periods at a time to start to see. So we might take the first month and maybe just try out a class, and then maybe the next month switch it up to a different time where there might be different kids or a different teacher or a different coach, right? Like you might sample and see how you can get in there and sample the energy of the environment for this period of time before they would really truly know if this is a really good environment for them or not. And then you would have that insight at the end of that 28 days. Now, that's not like a life-changing decision. At the same time, if you are an adult, for example, and your family's considering moving, and if you're a parent and you're a reflector, you might need to go spend extended periods of time in this place where you are thinking about moving, to feel what it's like to be in that energy throughout all of the energies of the I Ching, all the 64 gates, when you're there for one full month. And then that would give you more of a full experience. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I think you're explaining it like really well. And yeah, like how does this play out in day to day with things that aren't necessarily bigger decisions, and you just have to make the decision. You just have to go, you just have to figure it out, right? Like you can't wait a whole month for all of these decisions.
I know. It's like as much as and you can use a similar strategy as we would say to an emotional authority, for example, of let me sleep on it, let me get back to you. And those kind of being the mantra. Let me feel into it. Give me some time to try this out. Those are great things for reflectors to kind of keep in their back pocket and not always be in response. So, so quickly, but other times you're just going to have to go. You're going to have to go with your, with this like instinct that you have, being really connected to the energy that you are experiencing in the moment, because it's sort of like whatever energy you're in that moment is like, that's just what you're showing up with, whether it could be Mammy Gen energy, it could be just a reflection of the environment, good, bad, or ugly. So it's really important that you're thinking about what is the environment, how is this influencing me? If you're really tired and you're saying no to something, or you're not wanting this to take on something that in your heart you have a lot of interest for example, it is important to be really mindful and to start to think like, okay, am I just really tired because this is the environment that I'm in? Is there something that's draining me? What might be draining me? this is something that I really want to move toward. Like, I want to take this job, or I want to, I want to say yes to, I'm trying to think of a trivial example, right? Like I want to say yes to going to that music festival or something, but I feel so drained, right? Is there something that's going on? Maybe you are moving through some emotional gate activations, right? Where now you have that center defined, and that's going to change in a few hours, or after you sleep on it. So it can be tricky. It is a little bit more slow moving, but it doesn't mean you can't make decisions and you can't show up and be definitive about things. And it doesn't mean that you won't just know what's right for you in an instant. I think we all have that. The more you foster too, especially, okay, sorry, I'm like pausing for a second, because it really depends on how in tune you are with your inner world,
Exactly.
your connection with your higher self, or your God, or your spiritual connection. So I think that plays a role. If you're very, very out of alignment as a reflector, it might be hard for you to be really connected to that instinct. I do think that there are messages that we receive that are maybe spiritual or divine or higher self, or just that instinct that we know, so long as we're connected to it. I think that you are going to get that inner guidance in a sense, even as a reflector, when it's like you're waiting for more of these environmental cues, kind of, or how you're receiving the environment and what's kind of being reflected back and amplified. I do think, I'm trying like, what's the point here? My point is, like, you will have that so long as you're connected.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's fair to say a reflector wouldn't know something's the right decision in a moment. Also, make the decision and then notice and
Totally.
take some.
So you can learn from about yourself and learn like what was coming up for me when you were talking about like the inner knowing and the divine knowing and the messages that we might get. It might be harder for a reflector to kind of hear that and trust it because of all the things that they go through with the different gates being activated in the month, right? Like well, this is playing a role, or this is doing something this, and it might feel a little bit confusing for them at first. So I can imagine, I don't know how true that is or if there's any validity to that, but like that a reflector, it might be harder for them to learn how to listen to their intuition if they're really disconnected from it as an adult.
Yeah. I mean, and true for anyone,
Yeah.
honestly, true for
Well,
anyone.
it's the work I do. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The further we are disconnected, the more we're disconnected, the further away we are from it. It can feel really challenging to
Yeah.
really learn how to
Yeah.
trust it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because when you look, we oftentimes pair strategy and authority together, right? Those always kind of, strategy and authority go together in human design. And I know we're trying to just really tease out just the strategy piece, because it can feel a little bit like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Again, for each of the types,
Yeah.
maybe not so much for the manifestors. I don't know. But I try so hard not to get in, design envy. I think I've said that before
For
too.
sure, especially for the manifestors, right? To just be able to
Yeah.
like blit.
Yeah, but just go ahead and initiate. That would be so nice, and just to be able to trust that. But and there's so much conditioning that happens, especially for manifestor children, like we talked about. But for reflectors, again, if you have a kid that is a reflector, I mean, what a gift. And it's important as a parent that you're really noticing what what they're sort of, it's like gauging their temperature. Like, where are they generally happy, or are they generally unhappy, or when things are going on, like kind of noticing what's going on around them, or who they're spending time with, or where they're spending time that might be out of alignment for them. Also, whether you are a reflector yourself, or if you have a child, if you're doing this, maybe do for your child to kind of track with the moon cycles. Now, I know reflectors, and I know that they're not always just instinctually in touch with the moon cycles. So that's a good place to start, is just to begin to notice, when is it full moon? When is it new moon? When is it waxing? When is it waning? How does that affect if you're a woman and you're menstruating? We'll say if you're a menstruating woman, then notice what's going on with your cycle there. That can be really helpful. And then to journal, or to just have some sort of inward practice where you're noticing what's going on within you throughout the month, I think can be really, really helpful. And I'm saying this like, let's give you tools. Do you have to? Absolutely not. I know reflectors, and I pulled up a client chart here just to kind of be in that energy for a minute. And And I have noticed maybe resistance to that, not wanting to feel tremendously consistent in that sort of a practice, or not being drawn to it. But it really can, even if you just do it one time, just to notice, oh, I notice, this time of the month, I tend to be, when I'm coming into the full moon, I have more energy. And when we're coming out of the full moon, I have less, or vice versa, or whatever is true for you. So, and that can be helpful. And then again, if it's your child, maybe kind of noticing or just tracking, okay, what's their energy? What's their digestion like? What is their mood like? And then just see how that tracks. And then if you're really on it and you're really into this, you could then go and kind of look and see maybe what gate activations were present that
This
you
is
need to
such
be
a
putting in
good,
place.
like, generalized advice tip, whatever you want to say, for life in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
noticing, just like paying attention, learning about any way, any day, any moment that you have to learn about yourself and your children and how they are and how they show up, like, so incredibly powerful and
Yeah.
valuable. Like, just to slow down and notice, you guys.
Yeah. I know. It's
Yeah.
so true. The other thing that came through as you were saying that is also, giving them, especially I mean, obviously we do this for ourselves. Again, if it's your kid, uh, to give them tools, or at least just a baseline understanding of, the way that their energy works, and being such an amplification of their environment, and not just doing this tracking for them. I mean, it's helpful for you as a parent, but also really giving that. You don't have to say, hey, in human design, you're a reflector, and that means that your aura works like this, and this is your strategy and authority. But more, depending on their age, it's the conversation of, hey, like, the way that you work, it's not always like your environment is so important, right? So you are the fullest expression of you when you're in an environment that is really good for you, that's really healthy for you, that makes you really happy. Now, there's a little bit of like a protection that reflectors have in terms of the way their aura works, in the sense that it's what we call sampling. And the best analogy I've heard is like Teflon. It's like they can feel the energy, but it doesn't stick to them. It's kind of like this non-stick coating, where it's like they're sampling and resistant. And so it's like they can kind of receive it and let it go. It
Mm.
is still important, though, if you have reflector children or a child, that they understand the way that other people's energy affects them, and that it's not always theirs. Just like we would say to, say, an undefined emotional center, like, hey, you gotta, that energy, you're picking up people's emotional energy, but this is going to be true for all the centers, right? So this can be for any type. When we understand the centers and what's defined, oh, you have an undefined will center, you're maybe going to be picking up some competitive nature, or this sense that you have to prove yourself, when that's not really true. For reflectors, I think a reflector child really helping them understand that, anything that they may be feeling, sensing, identifying with, it's all potentially very transient. So notice the themes over time, like what feels like you, but also be very okay with what feels like you being different and changing and mutable, and not, I think we're getting into a place of like where they're not beating themselves up for not being like other people, because it is very different.
Yeah.
Again, there's a little bit of protection.
Yeah. And not putting so much emphasis or power on whatever it is that they're experiencing or feeling, right? Like, just
Yeah.
this allowing, like you're saying, allowing it to just be there and let it go away if it goes away, and like not put too much meaning on it.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, taking responsibility, if I'm feeling or behaving or showing up in a certain way, and it isn't, being influenced by my environment, it's not like, oh, you're making me feel like that. Oh, they're making me do this thing. Right. Gotta own it at the
Absolutely.
same
Yes.
time. So
Yes, because you still have control over your behavior and your reactions, regardless of
yeah.
where it's coming from and what's impacting it or what's instigating it, I guess you could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So as a reflector adult, you have the choice to change your environment oftentimes. And it might be tricky, right? It could be a work environment that's not healthy for you, and that's tricky and it takes time. But recognizing, oh, okay, this environment is actually really not great for me, or there's something, broken in this maybe corporate system or something, and I'm not able to change it, or the change isn't happening, so it's time for me to move on. You make that choice. It might take some time, and then as parents, that's our responsibility. So if your child's in a bad environment, or I mean, I'll say bad, right? If an environment that is not good for them, not healthy for them, then it is our responsibility as a parent to see how we can make that adjustment. And I know it can be tricky, because I'm thinking first thing that comes to mind is like, this is the school, and this is the school that we have to go to, and I can't homeschool because I have to work. And so I'm not making judgments, but it's also okay, then how can we begin to maybe think about after school programs, or friend groups, or sports or activities, or something that can help to shift that or balance out the things that you can't control, So, and we're all doing our best, so no judgment.
Yeah, no, totally. We're all on our own journey and whatever, and we all got to do what we got to do. But what also is coming up for me with the school situation, and this is in any environment that maybe it's not the best for you, is like having the hard conversations of like bringing things up that aren't working and see if there's something that we can adjust and change, right? Whether that's a boss, whether that's a coworker, whether that's a teacher for your kid, like whatever situation you're in, having open and honest and vulnerable conversations to allow for there to be a shift in the environment. We can't have it and ask for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
That's been a big one for me lately. I don't know why that's coming up so strongly, but it's if we're not willing to speak our truth and what we need, then like don't expect it. Don't expect to get what you need. That goes to relationships too, like with your spouse. Like, I don't know if you've probably, we've all experienced this, I think, but I could be wrong. And the resentment piece of like, oh, I'm doing this again, or oh, I have to do that again, or why am I the only one that does this? And why can't they do that? Right. With our kids, with our spouse, with whatever. And it's really from my experience, that those thoughts always come when I'm not speaking up and I'm not honoring my truth and what I need, right? It's like, if I'm not going to tell them I need them to do this, then how can I be mad at them? How can I be resentful that they're not doing it? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So much I could go off on that.
We
were just talking about when I was sick, and I'm like, oh, I was on my own, and I had a toddler at home, and I still had to do, and I was so sick. And then my husband got it, a couple days later, and he stays home and he has me. Like, I really could have used a wife.
And that's so common for moms, because that's what we do. We take care of everybody else, even when we're literally dying, quote, dying, right? We're so ill, and yet here we are, still running the house, still cleaning the things, still getting the kids to and from, and doing everything. But
I didn't ask anyone for help.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, what if we just spoke up and said, hey, honey, I really need you to do this for me.
My thought was, trust me, let me just tell you though, I was so sick, and I was like, who can I call? And then then it came back to, I was like, no one wants to come over here and catch this. No one's going to want to come over here and catch this. I can't do that to any of my friends, even though I know, like I had friends that could come scoop them up or whatever. And I'm like, the last thing they want to do is and I don't want to pass it on either. So it's
totally, I know, especially with the illnesses stuff, like we do have those thoughts of like, I don't want to make everybody else sick.
It's tricky. And for the record, for anyone listening that doesn't know the situation, my husband left work early in the morning before I got up, and he didn't even know I was sick. So it wasn't like he was like, see ya, so just
you haven't
having his back there for a second. So no one's thinking my husband's a jerk. He didn't know. And I texted him because I was checking in like, oh, did you get this? Kind of a thing. So anyway, okay. Projectors?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Projectors. So it's so funny, because as a projector, I still feel like I'm like, okay, is this an invitation? What does this mean? Is this a correct invitation? And I've been working with this for 4 years in my own experiment. And I do believe that there's this uncovering. So for any of these strategies, it's like it'll mean one thing to you. And then as you see it unfold, and as you begin to trust more in your strategy, it shows up in maybe different or surprising ways. So regardless of your types, if you're listening to this because you have a child and that's a projector or reflector and you're not, just know that can be true for you. So if you're, if you're waiting to respond, or if you're initiating, and informing, it's like, it can show, you start to see it in different lights. So I think I fairly recently, I had another, aha. So I'll do my best to articulate where I'm at now, and just know, it'll show up, in a general way, but also you'll start to see some nuance for yourself. So for projectors, the strategy is to wait for the invitation. And that could be a formal invitation, like that comes in email or in the mail, that for sure. It can also be energetic invitations, verbal invitations, emotional invitations. So an overt invitation, obviously someone's getting married, they send you a wedding invitation, for example. More energetic is going to be like, I think about like when you're dating someone, and if you're a projector, it's like that person asking you on the date, or seeing what you're up to, right? Like, are you around this weekend? I'm just trying to think way back to those early dating, dynamics. And it's hard to remember, but it's not always though. Like, it can be overt with like, would you like to go out with me? But it could just be that, and especially in this day and age, it's maybe more subtle than that, where it's they're, oh, hey, or they're having the banter, or they're just, oh, I saw this and it made me think of you, right? Those are the invitations that you're receiving. And it's really truly based in recognition. So while you'll see sometimes for the projector that it'll say wait for the invitation, and sometimes it'll say wait for recognition and invitation. And I cannot stress how much the recognition piece is important. So what is confusing for any strategy that requires you to wait, which is all of them, it arguably, except manifestors, even though manifestors are waiting for the urge, waiting for the inspiration, we're all waiting. Like, what the hell do you do while you're waiting? And for projectors, it's resting and playing and obsessing about the things that you obsess about, and then a little bit of work. So like the output is usually around 3 to 4 hours a day maximum, if you can help it. The rest of the time, it's like contemplation and learning, and like I said, obsessing. It becomes this like obsession with whatever your hyper focus is, and what you just, because you find it so enjoyable to learn about or be in or experience or practice, whatever that is. So if maybe it's painting, and then you're just like painting, and you're not selling your paintings, it's not like making you money necessarily, but those are the things that you're doing. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, speaking of dating, back when I very first became a coach, I'm talking 10 years ago, for a hot minute, I was a sort of manifest your soulmate love coach. That was my first certification that I ever got. And what we would talk about a lot is you just need to do the things that you really love doing, that just feel like that full expression of you. And when you're doing the things that you love, you attract the right people. So that's kind of what it's like to be a projector. The right circumstances, opportunities, people, these invitations come in when you are doing the things that you love so much. Because what happens for any type is that when you're saying yes to the no's, when you are doing things that you don't really enjoy, when you're expending more energy than you actually have as a projector specifically, you start to move into the not self theme, which is bitterness. And bitterness is, I feel like it's permeating in a different way than other types have. Like, it is so off-putting. It's so repelling. And I say that because maybe that's my personal experience and I'm in it, but I see, well, the anger for manifestors for sure, disappointment, I think for reflectors, definitely frustration for the generators and manifesting generators. It's like, it's almost like situational, like it's off-putting in that situation, where what I feel like, and this is my interpretation, is that the bitterness is like, it's all the time. When a projector is bitter, it is an energy that you just carry with you, that permeates into all parts of your life. It's not just, oh, I'm at work and I'm feeling bitter, so like now, and again, this can be true for any of the other types. You tell me what your experience is, but I will tell you, as a projector and knowing other projectors who are bitter, it seeps into every part of your life. So waiting for the right invitation is so critical, because it will throw everything off. I saw the funniest video the other day. I sent it to like every projector I know. and some non-projectors, some people that I know that love projectors. And it was like this lady who was making tortillas. It was so funny, you guys, I have to tell you. She had this little tray and she was making tortillas and she had the rolling pin and it was two gals sitting next to each other and one was watching and the one that said projector with the invitation and then the one was watching as a projector without the invitation. And so there was like flour and then the tortilla and the rolling pin and she's like very slowly like kind of getting things going and the other gals watching and like so annoyed because all projectors, they know everything, right? We know the way that everything needs to be done and how to fix everything. We just do. That's what we think we know anyway. And she gets frustrated and she grabs the thing from the other projector, sets it down, right? Shows her, here's how you do it. You guys can't see me, but she's like putting the flour on and is looking at her and is ready to roll out. And as soon as she puts down to roll out that tortilla, the whole thing was like on the edge of the table and the whole tray pops up and blasts her in the face with all the flour. It was just so funny. You have to, I'll send it to you, Courtney.
Yeah.
It was really funny. I think it was Projector Movement on Instagram that had it posted.
Okay.
So you can go look. Okay. So
yeah.
at Projector Movement. Anyway, it was just so funny. And that's so true because it just jacks up everything when you're not following your strategy. And it all starts with this. Like even authority it's strategy and authority. It's how do we come into this invitation? How do we come into this situation? Was there recognition and an invitation there? And then is it correct for you? Right. And then we're making the decision. So it's really nuanced with the invitations, again, overt or energetic. And the recognition piece has to be there too. And I say this because I think that was more of I knew it, but I'm really experiencing and embodying it lately. I'll have invitations come along. So for example, I mentioned human design at my sister. This is have I done this before?
I don't think so.
My sister's 7 years younger than me. The amount I co-raised her with my mom.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that I like say my sister versus my daughter. So times. Anyway, my daughter's parent teacher conference, and I mentioned human design. She's like, "Oh my gosh, would you come in and teach?" And of course, a projector in me, she's like, "Oh, the other teachers, we would love to know about this. Can you teach this for kindergarten? You know, this whole thing." And the projector in me was like, "Ooh, she wants to. Yes, this is an invitation. Yes." But there's no real recognition. She doesn't know anything about the system. She doesn't know how it would be applied. She doesn't really understand the value. Sure, she could just be responding and that could be absolutely correct. And it could be something beautiful and maybe it still will be something beautiful. But I have to check myself and be like, okay, just because there was an invitation doesn't mean I have to do this or that this is the right path, because there needs to be that sense of recognition. Does she really truly understand? So where I go with that now is, the next time I'm teaching something about children or parenting or relationships, I'll just simply invite her, right? Because I can extend invitations as well. And that extension of that invitation would be absolutely correct because she already opened the energetic invitation and an overt invitation by saying like, I want to know more about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So recognition is key, and that's going to help you determine if it's the right fit. So when you use your authority, we're kind of taking all of that in. So is it, somebody, you are a massage therapist and somebody's like, "Oh, I need a massage." And you're like, "Oh, invitation, I must be the massage therapist for you." Yeah, just trying to think again. Surface level.
Yeah, totally. No, it's not surface level. It's like the day to day, like what people are thinking about and things that they come across, right? Like I think it's really cool to bring these things up.
Yeah, in a practical way. Yeah. So maybe, but they say, "Oh, I need a massage." And you're like, "Oh, invitation, I must be your massage therapist." But really you specialize in, maybe like some sort of release technique. And they just want like a frou-frou relaxing.
Yeah.
Massage. And that's not actually a match, right?
Yeah.
Versus someone who's like, "Oh, I just really want a practitioner that knows how to do deep tissue and I have this, and you're like, "Oh, I have actually studied this thing. And let me tell you," and then they're like, "Yes, you're the person for me. There's a recognition. Let's book the massage."
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
The recognition is not something I ever thought about before. So that's really good to know.
Yes. So our situation, us coming to this podcast, was one of those things where the recognition was there. You had been to my classes. You already knew my style. So when you came to me, it wasn't even like you came to me and said, let's start a podcast even. I don't know if have we told this story?
I don't think we have.
Yeah. It was, you were kind of like in my world, and then you followed your strategy and authority of saying, I don't know, there's something, I want to do something together. I'm not really sure what. Would you even be interested? Right? You extended an invitation to me. And because I knew that you knew my work, I was like, yeah, let's talk. I'm like, I'll hear you out. Like, what's your idea? And
Yeah.
then we talked, and you were like, I don't know, a master class or something. Like, I just want to talk about, you know, how
Parents.
this can
Yeah, exactly. Like how
help
can
parents.
parents use human design? Exactly. Um,
And then I used my authority to sort of like feel, and I was like, oh yes, but this is like more than just a thing, like a single class. And maybe it could have been, and still we could still, right? But then we both followed our strategies and authority into, hey, now it's a podcast, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So
totally. Oh, this is so good. Like just the day-to-day practicality of how this shows up in the world in your life. And when you were talking about as a projector and feeling like your not self theme of bitterness just permeates every area of everything. Um, that's been my experience too as a manifesting generator. It's not, I guess it maybe it's not as extreme because I think I think about when I was working in the hospital and that felt very out of alignment. When probably the last year that I was there, it just felt very not where I was supposed to be. And I was so frustrated at work every single day, right? But I was able to come home and not allow the frustration to follow me for sure. But then I look at like my husband, for instance, and it seems like the frustration permeates his entire being. So maybe there's something there more specific person to person rather than the aura type as a whole. And maybe it's a degree, like a spectrum of how out of alignment are you, right? Is it like just little bits and pieces here, or is it like, are you just completely out of alignment in everything? Um,
yeah. Well, I think you bring up some good points. So one thing that I'm thinking is, it's true for all humans, but especially for generator types, so generators and manifesting generators. I think the frustration, when it starts to permeate everything, shows up as what we experience as burnout,
hmm,
rather than like, oh, that person is just a frustrated person. Like, I don't think that we perceive that or we feel it, right? It becomes that so drained, so tired,
yeah,
can't get lit up by anything, this exhaustion kind of permeates. So it doesn't, so maybe it's just not showing up as like what we would say is frustration.
totally.
And then I would say, depending on where the point of frustration is coming from or the out of alignment is coming from, what came to mind was like with husband, there's a lot of like gender role and identity. And so I noticed that when frustration comes up for generator types, and when I say generator type, I hope you all know I'm talking gens or mani gens. When it shows up in a man or in men, it shows up a little bit differently than in women, because women are so programmed and conditioned to like put on the smiley face and to squash things down and to like show up in a certain way, and you have to sort of persevere. Not that men aren't, okay? It's just
Right.
that it becomes like, for men, it becomes like emasculating, right? Which then shows up as sort of, it can be burnout, or it can show up as this like disengagement. They're not allowed to show their emotions, right? So they disconnect fully. There's a lot of numbing that will happen with men. Not that women aren't doing it. It's just going to present differently, is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so, but I think that still comes back to this point of what we perceive to be burnout versus what we perceive to be frustration. And a lot of times those, I feel like, go together for generators, because that's the experience. It's like this holistic misalignment,
Yes.
rather than, oh, I just feel really frustrated at work.
Right, right. It's like the frustration, being frustrated might also cause this like burnout and whatever, because you're staying in this place, right? Rather than actually going after the things you want to go after. And vice versa too, right? Like this feeling of um I'm totally losing my words and my thoughts right now.
And you're blissed out.
I still am. Isn't that crazy?
No, that's wonderful.
Very like,
For you.
it's so amazing that just a hour-long facial can cause that. Like I think it's been over a decade since I've had a facial. I've done
But
other,
there's a lot of third eye and crown chakra opening, and maybe even some focus.
yes, yes. So
Yeah,
true. I'm gonna look at it that way because that's totally what was happening. I'm just like,
yeah,
anyway, so um, or it could be vice versa of the burnout, exhaustion leading to frustration because you're like,
yeah,
what, whatever.
yeah,
But you're right. It's like this intertwined, holistic thing that you can't really figure out. It's just there.
yeah.
Um, hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, it maybe it's just my experience with the projectors. Like I can walk into a room and feel, and again, I am a projector, so maybe that's just how I experience the world. If you are also a projector and you're listening, you probably know whether you know what someone's type or not. If someone's in that bitterness, specific burnout, yes, you're going to feel that and experience that with other people, but that bitterness it's so tangible. It's like you can taste it, you can sense it, and
Mm,
it has this way of just shutting down the projector, and that no one wants to extend an invitation to a bitter projector.
absolutely.
You know,
It's like they have they feel the energy, they feel the out of alignment, they feel right. So
yeah,
then it's like it's not even a thing. And it's not a conscious thing. It's not like oh, they're so bitter, I'm not going to invite them. It's a subconscious, like just the energy between two people.
yeah, it's the ick.
The it exactly.
It's the ick. So if you have a child that's a projector, it can be tricky because with kids, I'm thinking about like different situations. They can't just always invite themselves into a friend group. They can't invite themselves in necessarily. It would be, according to human design, incorrect for them to just invite themselves into like, I'm just going to show up to this club and join. So as a parent, there can be ways where you can facilitate some of those invitations for them, knowing that they're really interested in, chess, and then making that suggestion of like, is there a chess club? Are there kids that do this? Is there a way that we can get, would you want to do that? And getting them, what do you think about that? And then maybe doing outreach or figuring out, where they could fit into a group situation like that, or teaching them ways to sort of navigate the invitations at an early age. So it's funny because, like I said, projectors all know everything. We gotta fix everything. And it's a joke. Any projector, Courtney, you're laughing, but like any projector listening is gonna laugh because if you don't know, you might, that sounds so conceited, but projectors think like we just have this way about us where we're like, you can just see, right? Or the way our aura works, you just can see into a situation that people can't, the things that people can't see. And so there's a lot of ways, especially with kids, it's like, oh my God, all you need to do is the XYZ. Like it's plain as day. And for some reason, no one around you can see that, but they're not going to listen to you. A, if you're a kid, because you're a kid, and B, if you haven't been invited to share your opinion.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's where it gets
That's the
tricky for
hard
the
part.
kids.
Yeah, just in general as a projector. I worked with a projector as she was a client of mine, and this was one of her biggest. It was just incredibly hard because in her work environment, she could see these things and she wanted to have her input and she wanted to help the situation at hand. And she just gets shut down and shut down, shut down, shut down because she didn't wait for the invitation. And once she learned how to do that, it was like game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one thing to learn for yourself, two, to teach your kids how to maybe navigate
Absolutely.
that situation. And really what it is it's sort of, I kind of think of it, to me it always is like, it's like a house. Like you just have to open your gates so that you're open for someone to come and drop an invitation in the mailbox, assuming the mailbox is inside the gate, but whatever.
Yes.
Right? It's like you have to like give that little opening
Yeah.
sometimes, and sometimes not, truly. Like sometimes you don't have to say anything, and that's one thing that could be helpful to teach a projector, a child, is you don't have to say, just because you know how to fix it, you don't have to say. Not everybody wants to. Some people need to learn by experience.
Yeah.
So just coming in and telling them, you know it's not like don't tell them because you want to people please and then keep them happy. That's not what you're teaching your kids. It's sort of like, there's an opportunity to be discerning about when you offer advice or when you don't. And then the other piece is really creating that sense of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'll think of an example and hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing, but I have a manifester friend who had this really beautifully vulnerable piece of content that she shared via email and on social media. And I saw it on social media and I thought it was so beautiful. And I could also see it reflected in her chart because I knew her chart. And so instead of saying, like, everything in me was like, well, duh, that's your experience. You're a manifestor woman and you have this gate and that gate. That is what I wanted to say. But instead I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts about this with regard to your chart. And that's all I said. Fast forward a few weeks and I put out one of my emails where I'm like, hey, I have a last minute chart session or chart reading opening. And boom, she was like, I want one. Right. And then she comes back and she's like, the reason I booked this is because you said something about seeing this in my chart. Now I want to know what.
Yeah. Right? So you gave yourself the opportunity to be invited.
Yes. I opened the gates and it wasn't in a manipulative way. It was me really, truly honoring truly, because like I said, I wanted to say, oh, it's because of this and this and this in your chart. She's a manifester. I'm not coming at her with all this unsolicited. Hell no, I want to stay friends. I love her, you know? At the same time, like it was like bursting out of me. So rather than go into the details and say, oh, this is because of this, this, and this, I just said, I have so many insights. Right. So it's these moments of like, hey, if you want some help, I know a little bit about that. Or, oh, that's something that I study or I'm really interested in. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm your girl. Or, you know, like, let me know if you want a study buddy or accountability partner, whatever. I'm trying to think like school situations, even small kids is, you know, hey, let me know if you know, I'm here to play if you want to play later.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, where you're giving them ways to phrase it so that the invitation does come correctly. Yeah. And they're not just forcing, because when you do force yourself, and I say force, that's a strong word, but it's how it feels. It's how it's perceived by people. It's like you come in hot because your energy can see them so clearly. It's like, ooh, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't invite you here, you know? So that can be extremely difficult for a projector child to experience that kind of rejection. Absolutely. And not understand why. And it isn't because there's something wrong with them or wrong with you. If you're an adult and you had that experience, it's just the mechanics of the way the energy works and the way it's being perceived is simply a misunderstanding because we're not taught this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just love this conversation so much. And I think that every single conversation we have about every single episode, I think at the end, I'm like, oh, this is just such a good reminder to just like be open and compassionate for people, right? You have no idea what they're going through. You have no idea what their personality or their aura types are. Like, you just don't know. So just allow people to be who they are and be yourself. It's just like that invitation to raise the vibration of the planet every single day, because that's what human design has done for me, right? Is allowed myself to be who I truly am, because it's like, oh my God, that is how I am. It's not just like a thing I'm making up in my head, or it's not just this thing that I was told to be. It's like, that's actually who I am. So I'm going to allow myself to be that even more. And extending that to other people too. Just, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
I literally feel like I could end every episode with that same exact.
We'll make it our outro.
Yes.
Peace on earth.
Peace on earth.
I love compassion.
I love that so much. Okay.
So a final thought I would offer, if that's okay, for both reflectors and projectors, all non-sacral, so that would include the manifestors as well, really need a lot of rest. Reflectors and projectors definitely need a lot of rest. Projectors are the most highly conditioned types of all the aura types. So especially if you have kids, or if you're doing on your personal development journey, like really look into those areas of conditioning. And we have episodes on that and more to come. But sleep is going to be really, really important for non-sacrals. all non-sacrals, ideally getting rest. So naps, being horizontal, or sleeping at night, any of those options by themselves in their own aura with no other auras touching, coming into contact is really, really important. And then for reflectors, they definitely need rest. What you'll see though is there's just such a variation of the energy, because for periods of time they're going to be in generator energy and they're going to be in manifestor energy, and they're going to kind of have these ebbs and flows. But at the end of the day, you're non-sacral, so you do need more rest than I want to say the average bear, but really the truth is like bears sleep a lot, more than generators for sure. So make sure that sleep and rest are prioritized in whatever way you want to do that in your home.
And to add to that, it's really important that you prioritize that before you feel like you need it, right? Like if you've gotten to the point where you feel like you need to rest, you've gone too far.
I am so glad you said that. Yes. So there's a distinction. If you are non-sacral, you need to unwind before you go to sleep. Sacral, so the generators are designed to sort of like fall into bed exhausted in a satisfied way, so they can kind of go and then go to bed and like crash out, you know, as long as they're doing things that are yeses, you know, and they're not burnout. That's the different kind of sleep for generators, but that's sort of the way you're designed. It's like use up all that sacral energy, run your gas tank to empty, and then go to bed and recharge it. But non-sacrals really need to have that downtime before they go to bed. So it is, you know, this resting. So my husband's a manifestor, I'm a projector. I usually will go to bed and be horizontal. And sometimes I'm reading, and sometimes I'm scrolling, and sometimes I'm not doing any of those things. And I need at least 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, before I can then restfully fall asleep. And then I sleep for a period of time before he comes to bed. That's how we're able to bed share, because a lot of times projectors don't do well sleeping when anyone else is in the room. So it's something to consider if you have a projector baby and they're not sleeping well, and you really believe in, and you're a generator and you really believe in bed sharing or co-sleeping or whatever. It's something to consider, at least during nap times, to give them their own space.
Yeah.
For my husband as a manifestor, he needs unwind time on his own. He doesn't necessarily need to be horizontal like a projector does, but he does like couch time. And again, it's not even about watching something for him right now. A deep breath. He loves to tinker with it. We have a saltwater aquarium. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole culture,
Yeah.
but he loves to tinker with all of that. So that's his downtime in his aura. It's not mindless, but it's right. It's like maybe a little creative, but it's his rest time where he goes and like hides in the basement where the filtration system is. It's a whole freaking thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, good for him, right? He has that. So he's doing, that's his unwind time as a manifestor. And then he can come to sleep restful. But it's perfect for us because then I can go get some sleep, and I'll sleep better in those 2 hours before he comes to bed than I do the rest of the night, because of the way that energy works. So anyway, that's an important thing.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to note for sure. Awesome. Okay. We will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for listening. If today's conversation sparked something for you, we'd love to hear it. Come find us on Instagram and let us know what resonated.
And if you're loving the show, would you please leave a review or share it with a friend? It helps more conscious moms find this space and feel less alone on this path.
Until next time, keep listening to your body, trusting your energy, and parenting in a way that feels true to you.
You're doing better than you think. See you next time.